Hey, how's it going there? Yeah, the book here I'm reading. After Dark by Haruki Murakami. A pretty good read, read it all in one day, in fact. There you go. List price of $14.95 on the back. Flip that around for you. There you go. Yeah, After Dark by Haruki Murakami. Obviously my favorite author, if you can't tell by now, if you've seen the last couple episodes. But yeah, let me set this down and I'll talk about it a little bit here with you. Grab me a tasty beverage here and chat you up a little bit. The book is got kind of this fun style to it where it lists the time above each chapter, whether it be 2 o'clock in the morning or something like that. As the title suggests, it's all about what happens after most people are going home, going to sleep for the night and all that. It follows a few main characters, of course, as we would expect in any novel, and good narration. Anyways, we end up starting at a Denny's in Japan, and there's this character named Mari, and she's kind of a loner who's sitting there at the Denny's eating just a little something here, a little something there, ordering coffee, just trying to kind of chill out, hang out, and kind of have somewhere to hang out for the night while she reads her book. So a little as she goes, she orders a little something more just to kind of push things back that will kick her out. And all of a sudden this guy runs into her, and just so happens we find out his name is Takahashi, and he kind of comes up to her table out of nowhere, and she kind of goes, okay, what's this character up to? And he doesn't introduce himself by name, but he starts to kind of ask certain questions that she certainly knows the answers to. It turned out they both hung out a little bit, maybe the summer before. Her and Mari and her sister Iri Asai, who we come to find out a little bit later more about her. Apparently Iri is very beautiful and brought her little sister to tag along on this little adventure to the swimming pool one summer, and Takahashi was pretty much tag along double date situation with his friends. So they're sitting down there at the restaurant. He works his way into that. We find all this information out in their dialogue as they talk, and he's got him an instrument case with him, and turns out he plays the trombone, and Mari calls it out right away, and he's just kind of like this real frantic kind of here and there kind of scatterbrained dude who's kind of going, how do you know what a trombone is? How do you know what that kind of music is? Girls your age don't know anything about that. Like a guy his age is supposed to know more about more so the bluesy, jazzy type of music than some girl closer to his age. So they actually, we're going to follow them here for a little bit, and I'll talk about the other. It all intermingles back and forth, and that's kind of Murakami's style in his books. But I'm going to follow Takahashi and Mari here for a little bit. Come to find out that Mari speaks fluent or really well Chinese, and Takahashi takes a hike. He's got band practice in a basement of some abandoned building, and it actually turns out going to be his last night practicing. He's going to decide to go ahead and give up playing music altogether. He wants to pursue an actual career through college, so there you go with that. Mari's still at the Denny's, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this very large, impressive, physically built woman comes up, and I mean, she is muscular. And I'm kind of saying to myself while I'm reading this novel, what is it with these random people coming up to this kind of reserved, trying to keep to herself girl with this really thick novel, apparently big enough to, I could imagine from the description, about as big as a dictionary. And all of a sudden this woman comes up to her table and introduces herself as Kaoru, That's how I'm pronouncing it. I'm not the best. As many novels as I've read by Murakami, Japanese names still befuddle me. And she says, "You speak fluent Chinese, don't you?" And she said, "I'm not so sure if I speak fluent. And how did you know I speak really good Chinese anyways?" And she says, "Well, Takahashi told me that you would be here and I need a translator." And that's when we find out Takahashi's name. He didn't even actually introduce himself to Mari in the first place. We don't even know his name until just now. So it turns out there's a Chinese prostitute at the hotel that Kaoru actually runs. She manages. Now, she doesn't own it, mind you, but she does run it. And she needs a translator because this girl is beat up real bad. I mean, she is beat up. All her belongings were taken. All of that. And there is nobody there to pay for the hotel room. That's besides the point. This poor girl is in dire straits, and Kaoru really needs to figure out what's going on. So Mari decides to go along with her. She's already met Takahashi, even though she didn't know his name, but she goes along, and they get there, and sure enough, she is translating for this girl. The man ended up getting completely outraged at this gal when it turned out that after hiring her for a fun time in a love as they're calling it, love hotel. That's what Kaoru runs. She ended up being on her period, and this guy went ape, and he took all her belongings and everything. It was very sad. So it turns out that they get some information from her. They take her down to the office. They clean her up. They try to get her some minimal medical aid, what they can handle. And they go to the lost and found and grab her some clothes, so at least she has some dignity about herself at this point. And then they come to find out they get a number from her, so she can call somebody. And well, turns out that the Chinese bikers, they run the whole prostitution game. They get these girls in here young to the Japanese country and make them work off their passage. Kind of reminds me back in early colonial days, indentured slavery. You know, go ahead, sign up for 7 years service on a plantation here in the U.S., in the colonies, as it were, and yeah, you can have your freedom after that. Work your passage off. Man decides to, one of the biker guys decides to come up, and he comes in, and Kaoru's beside all the mess here, a little tore up that nobody's paid for the hotel fee, and she actually stands her ground. She's a former wrestler, by the way. That's why she's got such a big build. And she actually gets the biker, the Chinese biker guy, to pay for the fee because she says, "I don't think the police need to know anything about this." And he finally gives in. Girl gets on the bike, they leave. And now Kaoru, now, mind you, it is remiss of me not to mention Kamuji and Kurogi. Now, these two gals are helping out clean up the hotel room while Mari and Kaoru were helping the Chinese prostitute. They are very well experienced workers in the love hose, if you will, love hotels, and then they play a little part here and there as time goes by. So anyways, Kaoru's got to take care of Mari. She says, there's no need to go back to the Denny's. I know this nice bar. The guy will be more than happy to, bartender will be more than happy to have you stay there. I know you're underage, but you can have yourself some club sodas and all that, and there's some grub there too if you need it. Nice quiet spot to read your book. So the gals back at the hotel. Kaoru's all about finding out who did this. and they just have surveillance cameras recently installed, and so she's super excited to find out who did this. And Kamuji and Kurogi are in there talking with her, and they're just like, just give up. Why does it matter so much? She says, nah, this is messed up. We need to figure this out. And they go through all the camera. They finally get their system to work. They're going through the footage. And I forget who said it, Kamuji or Kurogi, but they suggested this man must probably be a professional businessman who works late hours at the business when nobody else is around. Goes out for a little bit, tries to have a little good time, goes back to office, knocks out some more work, and then finally heads home for the night. Turns out she was right. And his name turns out to be Shirakawa. Not that they know that, but they found footage of a man who knew exactly what he did when he went there. This was not his first rodeo, and yes, and we shift over to Shirakawa. After a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and say this. Kaoru prints out a picture of the guy. She calls the Chinese biker guy up again. Says, "Hey, do you want a picture of this guy?" So why are you trying to give me a picture of this guy? Why would you do that? Oh, hey, if you don't want it, you don't want it. Now, in her mind, she wants to see something done about this. And she still doesn't want to go to police. She's a woman of her word. So the biker guy finally comes by, takes up the picture. And of course, the Shirakawa guy has all the Chinese prostitutes' belongings. We end up at Shirakawa's office. And here he is, typing away, doing his work. His wifey calls him, and she's, well, are you coming home tonight? That sort of thing. Oh, he's the guy who's got to stay up late. Oh, sorry, honey, it's another late night. That sort of thing. He does a little bit of basic workout in the office on a yoga mat. He gets back to work. He goes to clean up. And just a quick little bathroom sink wash up. And he's got all the belongings of the Chinese prostitute, not sure what to do with them. Here's where we get to Eri Asai. The whole time, there's this whole chapter, these chapters with Eri Asai, where we are nothing but a point of view in a room. And why I start here with Shirakawa, transition into that for a moment, is because Shirakawa looks in the mirror and he sees himself looking right back at him with not the same expression. And when he leaves the mirror, his image is still in the mirror. Now, Eri Asai, this whole time, we notice, finally, on the other side of a television, inside her room, ends up disappearing from her room and ending up in the image on the TV, which actually ends up turning out to be almost like in a whole different, how do I want to say it? Almost a different plane of existence, almost an alternate version of our reality is the kind of rundown vacant offices of where Shirakawa is. Now, I don't know, up to anybody's interpretation who reads that book, what all that means exactly. Not quite sure. But what we do know about Eri Asai is for some reason out of nowhere, she is, I don't know, just completely zonked out, nearly dead, asleep. She comes to life when she's in the other dimension, if you will. For brief panicking moments when she realizes she's not in her room. But once she returns to her room, I'm just dead sleep. She's not dead, but apparently she's just been sleeping for like months. I guess the doctors aren't concerned about her dying, but at the same time, I guess she purposefully put herself in that state. It's very strange. And Mari has to end up explaining this to Takahashi down the road. But we'll get back here to Shirakawa now. He's got all the Chinese prostitute's belongings. He wants to stop by. He's got to pick up some milk on his way home. Has a taxi driver stop by the convenience store. I believe it was the 7-Eleven. He has all her belongings except for one thing in a trash bag and puts it with the rest of the trash on the curb of the 7-Eleven. Keeps the cell phone though for some reason. Don't know why. He gets a threatening call from the Chinese biker. He figured out this dude's got all her belongings. He's got her cell phone. There you go. So he's making a threatening call saying, I know who you are, and when I find you, and all that jazz. Well, Shirakawa, for some reason, decides when he grabs the milk to leave the cell phone in the cold beverage case there where the milk was. He ends up going home and ends up having some late night food. His wifey's asleep, watching some news. We don't really see anything bad happen to Shirakawa. Worst thing we've seen was his image was left in the mirror. Well, later on, Takahashi, he's strolling around out and about. Meanwhile, Mari makes her way back to the Love Hotel. And because Kaoru told her, hey, there's always rooms available at this time of night. You need to pass out, sleep out for a while, come back here. So she did. She went back there. And she hung out with Kurogi for a little bit. And Kurogi ends up explaining to Mari how after Mari asks her a few questions about her life, and she can't get into it. She's on the run. And there were some circumstances involved and some sort of organized crime syndicate type people involved, and basically she's working at a love hotel because they don't ask too many questions about employment, and she has stayed at this one for quite some time. Apparently you make a move pretty quickly time to time to keep the scent off your trail, but Kaoru was really great, and she protects her girls. So Mari goes to sleep. Takahashi's taken had to take himself out of the band practice, close it up for the night, sit in the park for a little bit, go to the 7-Eleven, and all of a sudden, what do you know? He goes to grab some milk, and he gets a little cell phone. Sees that little cell phone in there, thinking maybe, just maybe, he'll do the right thing and call the owner. Maybe he can figure out whose cell phone it is, get returned to him. No, Chinese biker dude. And he says the same thing to Takahashi. He says, Shirakawa. He says, yep, I don't think so. Leaving this cell phone right here. Forget that noise. And so there we go. We go ahead and Takahashi calls up the Love Hotel. He figures Mari probably made it back there at some point. She agrees to meet up with him. They don't go... I think he was talking about maybe going out to eat, but she figures she might as well go home. And so they go to the train station. Seems to be a pretty big theme in Murakami books. Seems Takahashi took quite a liking to Mari. And I guess they do have some chemistry. But it turns out he asked her on a date. And she says, I would love to, but I'm going to Beijing for months. And he asks if he can at least be a pen pal and write her quite often, which she agrees to. And he says he'll be waiting for her when she gets back. His night's over. She goes home. And there's her sister, Iriasai, just dead asleep in her bed as always. And here comes Mari. I don't know exactly if the events of the night transpiring made her more likely to miss her sister as much as she did, but there she cuddles up next to her in her bed, even if Iriasai does not know. And we pretty much leave the book at that point as we become the ever-present point of view, pure point of view. and exit the room, exit the neighborhood, and keep going up and up and up and up and up until we're finally off the continent altogether. So, there's another Murakami book for you there. After Dark. Take it for what you like. Have fun with it. It was a one-day read for me. I certainly had fun with it. I want to thank you for sharing, liking, and subscribing as always. And of course, I hope to catch you next time. Peace.